Alright mates, I've spent some time with this Realme 16 Pro Plus model, which I call the budget flagship in my unboxing video, and the time has come to see if I was right, whether this phone can substitute, not maybe compete, but substitute a true flagship, whether it can be your daily driver in all aspects. So without further ado, let's get straight to it, starting of course with the design. And when I hold it in my hand, I can certainly say and feel it's not a cheap phone because of very particular reasons. Firstly, it's quite a large phone, you see. It's a large screen, 6.8 inches diagonally, and it's quite hefty. It's not a weight of a brick, but it's over 200 grams, 203 probably, if I'm not mistaken. So it feels solid. And yes, you can disagree with me, but when I held its predecessor, Realme 14 Pro Plus, that felt too light, and that I could immediately say it was made from plastic. This one, I don't quite know what it's made of. At least its back is not made of plastic. It's the fake leather. They call it vegan leather, but it's simply a fake leather. Can you hear that? Yeah, it's textured fake leather, so it's very resistant to all the fingerprints and smudges and very pleasant to hold. I don't even wanna put a case on it because it's so nice, so soft and textured to the touch. I like the feeling, so I like it. Overall, the design is very solid and almost premium, apart from these shiny rails. Yeah, they don't give any premium feeling. They're very shiny, look almost cheap, but overall the phone looks very nice. And there is one more very important addition to its premium feeling. Not only is this IP68 certified, meaning resistant to water and dust, but it's also IP69 certified, meaning you can put it in your dishwasher and it will survive a washing cycle. I don't see why anyone would fancy put their phone into a dishwasher, but if you fancy, you can and it will survive. So certified all around from any intrusion into its body, so it feels very solid and premium. I like it. Now let's talk the screen, and I'm of two minds here. Firstly, it's a big, beautiful OLED screen, 6.8 inches diagonally, and OLED means the colors are bright, vivid, and true. True is that black color is always black, not any dark gray or anything that may appear on IPS panels. The refresh rate goes very low, even though it's not an LTPO panel, but the refresh rate, you can see it here, can go down to 30 Hz, which is very power efficient, and can go up to flagship refresh rate of 144 Hz. That's very good. The peak brightness of this screen is 1800 nits of peak brightness, so 1800 nits. It's very bright screen, and that's great. I love the colors, and I haven't noticed any flickering, so at first glance the screen is beautiful, but there are some things frustrating me. Firstly, the curved screen, it's not cool anymore. It's not what people want and need in 2026, because, for example, when you type in anything on a keyboard, you see that those edge letters like U and P and some other symbols are located right on the edges. I haven't really noticed any misprints or mistypes, but that's sort of distracting. And of course, when playing games, you'll have sort of distortions on the edges, maybe some even buttons quite hard to touch precisely. So curved screen only looks good, but it's not practical at all. But that's a very minor thing. My major gripe with this screen is that even though it's advertised and technically able to go up to 144 Hz, which is very fast, that's flagship level. In reality, I haven't found one scenario where when it really goes up to 144 Hz, not the interface, not the settings, not any game, even those that don't have their own FPS limit. So in practice, it only goes up to 120 FPS, but you see that technically it's capable of 144 Hz. I believe there's some software limitation, so Realme should really push an update unlocking those 144 Hz. That would be of a real flagship level. So very nice screen overall, but you can clearly find a better one. Now, the system. When I firstly booted up into the system, I looked at the home screen just like this and I thought, wow, they finally matured. The system looked so clean, so streamlined that I thought they finally got rid of all the rubbish. But then I've spotted these two and a dozen of other rubbish apps like booking.com and even some scam apps like Temu, TikTok. Of course, that's not a big of a hassle. You can easily uninstall all of them. That's a very minor inconvenience. Other than that, yes, I was right with my first impression. The system is quite streamlined. It embraces all the features that you wanna play with, personalize your phone. Yeah, by the way, the greatest options for personalization, I believe, coming from its older, bigger siblings, being the Oppo and OnePlus. You can play with wallpapers, themes, wallpapers, fonts, icons. By the way, to me, it seems more convenient to get into the personalization, sorry, just like this, holding my thumb on the screen, and the menu pops up, allowing you to customize your style. And I love playing with this style. In particular, I like to get the system colors to the most muted, as muted as possible. There is no monochrome option, as I see, only the neutral, most muted option. And of course, I like to get all the icons. They call it flux, but that's all simply getting into the mono color or monochrome style. Let's do them monocolor, and let's see what we've got. Yeah, all the icons, absolutely all the icons, and I love that consistency. Now redrawn to be in one color. I love that consistency. You might disagree with me. You may absolutely identify all the apps by its color, but I like it like this. Of course, there is all the, and you see, yeah, now all the system colors are very, very muted. Of course, there is an mandatory these days AI section, most of options in which simply duplicate what the Google default Translate app can do. All the Translate things is simply what Google Translate does. Although one feature caught my attention, AI Gaming Coach. It gives you hints and tips how to defeat your enemies. Unfortunately, currently it only supports 3 titles, of which I'm only familiar with PUBG Mobile, but I believe with updates more yet to come. So seems handy enough for gamers. Of course, being a global model, it has all the Google apps, including Circle to Search, which is the only one of the very few AI apps and features that are really useful. I love using the Circle to Search. I can get information about anything that's on my screen at any moment. I love it. Of course, Gemini is here as your default AI assistant. I love having it all. And just one more thing. So in all other parts, the system is very much like any other system from OnePlus or Oppo. What I liked, for example, is that outdoor mode where you can tune up your screen clarity. I believe it's simply the screen brightness going up for outdoors usage. I love that, but that's again very minor feature. What's a big feature is of course the support, the updates policy, and here is where Realme really surprised me as for Realme 16 Pro and this Realme 16 Pro Plus, there will be 4 years of major Android updates. So 4 major Android updates. It's a huge deal. It's just mentally good. I love what Realme are doing. Not even all flagships provide 4 Android updates for flagship phones. I'm talking about, for example, ZTE Z80 Ultra, which is a true flagship, but with very poor support. So with this length of Android updates, I just love the system. I can forgive all the minor gripes, and there are very few gripes or inconveniences. The system is clean, fast, and responsive. So 4 years of Android updates clearly puts this phone on the top of all the budget phones. Now I've got to mention the battery. Rarely do I ever mention any battery details in my reviews because most, if not all, modern phones have big batteries and great battery life, but this thing is something else. Starting with the capacity, it's 7000 mAh, one of the largest, definitely not the largest, because for example, OnePlus 15 has 7500 mAh, but that phone, the OnePlus, is powered with much more powerful processor, which eats up much more of a battery than this one. But not the capacity is what caught my attention. What got me absolutely gobsmacked, I was just shocked, is the battery life. You see that during 16 days it went down by around 5%, no more than that. I specifically took a screenshot of the battery discharge when it was at half of the capacity, so 48%, and you see the discharging line, the discharging chart shows pretty much straight line, so it almost doesn't discharge at all. Of course, it does go down along the way, but the battery life on this phone is just amazing. Believe me, I've rarely seen such a great battery life. Now, the performance. And technically, this phone is definitely performing well. By that, I mean that all the hardware is put together very neatly, starting with the RAM and internal storage, the fastest LPDDR5X RAM available. That's the latest generation. There's no LPDDR5.6 yet available on any phone, so that's the latest. An amount of 12 gigabytes should keep your running apps in the memory, allowing them to launch immediately. And the internal storage is UFS 3.1, not the latest, not the fastest, but also very fast. The latest would be UFS 4.1, but that's rather for flagships. 3.1 is it's not indicated here, it's according to the official website. So very fast, the fastest RAM, very fast internal storage, and of course the chip leading all of that is Snapdragon 7 Gen 4, so very powerful, already the 4th generation of this sub-flagship chip, because Snapdragon 7 series or 7 family is just one step behind the powerhouses, the Snapdragon 8 family chips. So it's not a budget, it's a sub-flagship chip, should be powerful enough to run any game smoothly. And so we see that everything is put together very well, but there is one more factor contributing to great performance, and that's the refresh rate, of course, allowing for highest FPS in the games, and the refresh rate technically can go up to 144 hertz on the display, and there is an app-specific refresh rate section in the display menu, and here is the thing with it. Any game, even those that do not have an FPS limit of their own, like Beach Buggy Racing 2, which I love to play, is kept at 120, so I haven't found. Oh, the calculator goes up to 144. That's ridiculous. That's mental. But the games, any game, yeah, the Beach Buggy Racing follows the phone's system's highest refresh and FPS rate. They are interconnected, so it should be on any phone be at the highest hertz level, but here is only 120. The Call of Duty should be running and at 120 FPS, which again relates to 120 hertz. So let's see. It's unclear yet. So let's see what we got in practice, and I'll start with Subway Surfers. Why so light game? Because this game doesn't have an FPS limit of its own, and fortunately we've got an embedded FPS meter or FPS counter on real-time FPS, and we see that there is no 144. So again, a little let down. So let's go for it. I won't bother you with the long gameplay because it's very light, but again, yet no 144 FPS. Unfortunately, let's try some faster game, which is Beach Buggy Racing 2, and that's what I said about the curved edged screen. You see that it curves at some points where you get some visual distortions. Nothing crazy, but it's not practical. And what we got here, again, no 144 on any of my phones. The Beach Buggy Racing goes as high as the system refresh rate allows, so technically or theoretically it should be up to 144 FPS, but nope, it floats around 115, so up to 120 FPS, which is again very fast, don't get me wrong, but the display promises 144 and I haven't seen that a bit in any scenario, in any game. Only the calculator, which is of course ridiculous. So again, 120, very fast, but not as promised. And let's try just one heavy hitter, Call of Duty Mobile. Again, this title is very well optimized for any processor, specifically of course for Snapdragon processors, and let's see, tons of ads. Right, we're in the menu, so let's get to audio and graphics, and voila, the highest, yeah, it allows to go to ultra frame rate, but only with the low quality, no, not even medium. So let's get to a game and we'll see what we got. Right, we're in the game, and not even 120, which is really disappointing. Not even a bit, but really disappointing, because yeah, a bit struggle to play decently and speak at the same time, but 90 FPS is well lower than even the display settings promise. So not even 120, although technically it should be up to 144, but we don't even have 120, only 90, right? So the conclusion is, if you are a gamer, you might want to look at any other phone, even the older ones. For example, I've still got the Lenovo Legion Y90 gaming phone from year 2022. Yeah, 4 years old phone, but that one running on the Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 still runs Call of Duty at 144, just hear me out, 144 hertz, 4 years old phone, but with the Snapdragon 8 chip. So if you're a proper gamer who likes to run some heavy titles, you might wanna miss out on this phone. And cherry on top, the cameras. I had my experience with its predecessor, the 14 Pro Plus model, and the cameras on that phone weren't consistent. As good as photos came out of that 14 Pro Plus model, as bad the video was. Even with the native lens zoom distances being at 1 and 3x, that video wasn't good. But here there should be some improvements. Should it? So the camera's setup clearly shows a budget or nearly budget phone, where two models are very capable. The main sensor is 200 megapixels on a pretty budget phone, coupled with a very capable 50 megapixel dedicated 3.5x telephoto sensor. Yeah, 3.5x optical zoom, and the last sensor is basic 8 megapixels ultra wide, but rarely do I use ultra wide at all. So it's very much consistent with my likings on a phone, but yours might differ from mine. So the cameras, the sensors aren't very large. So the main sensor is 1/1.56, not the largest, but should be good enough for this model. And the video surprised me in a good way, because the video can go up to 4K 60 FPS, but only, of course, on the main and telephoto lens. So we've got the 1x and 3.5 or more x, so no ultra wide at 4K, and that's again absolutely enough for me. And the selfie video also reaches up to very fast 4K 60 FPS on a selfie camera. I don't even know the specifications. It should be somewhere around 20 megapixels. I don't do any selfie videos, and you see that you've on a selfie you've got even some sort of wider angle. So 4K 60 on a selfie, it's mental. It's so good. And that's probably it for the camera interface overview. Yeah, you've got all the usual color profiles. You've got the slow-mo, but what amazes me is the underwater dedicated mode, where you can, yeah, as this phone is fully water resistant, you can submerge it into water and use the buttons to take a photo or record a video being underwater, fully underwater. That's amazing. So let's get into photo and video samples. Whether I took photos indoors or outdoors, the results came out excellent. Colors were consistent across all the lenses and zoom ranges. There was no over-processing or over-saturation. Colors were very close to what I saw with my eyes, very true to life. And what amazed me the most were the zoom shots from native 3.5x to 7, 10, and even 20x. The details remained as they were. The photos didn't turn into AI mess like on this chestnut tree. It kept all the leaves, all the twigs or branches. So I was really surprised and amazed with the quality. Realme 16 Pro Plus, 4K 30 FPS, only supported on main and telephoto sensors, so no 4K with the ultra wide, and this is 3.5 times. It looks very nice. 5, 7, 10x. Looks very nice. Well, what's good and what's not so good about this Realme 16 Pro Plus phone? Well, the obvious to me pros of this phone are, firstly, the design. It looks and feels very premium. There is nothing cheap or budget about it. I'd love to use it naked with no case on it, and that speaks a lot. And it's got all the ingress protection rates only available. Not only does it have IP68 but also IP69, so resistant to hot water jets. It will survive a dishwasher, for example. The system. The system also deserves a credit, a proper credit, because it's matured now compared to previous versions. It's well customizable. You can personalize and customize everything on this phone. It has all the necessary AI features. Not all of them are very useful, but things like circle to search, AI assistant, and AI game assistant very good. So the system deserves high mark. The battery life it's just mental. It can last for days, for weeks. This phone is easily 2 days phone. The screen, well, the screen is somewhere between good and bad, because on one hand it's a beautiful OLED screen, 6.8 inches diagonally. OLED means colors are bright, vivid, and black is black and white is white, unlike on IPS screen. But that gimmick with the refresh rate being technically up to 144 Hz, but practically almost none of the apps or even the interface can reach up to 144. I've only managed 120 in any scenario. That's the best case. Speaks not very good about it. The manufacturer clearly wanted to amaze us, to catch our attention, but currently it failed. So the screen is somewhere between, and the clear downside of this phone is the performance, specifically the gaming. I found no game that can run at that advertised 144 hertz, and some even very well optimized games like Call of Duty only runs at 90 FPS at max. So, oh, and I forgot the best part of this phone: cameras. Cameras, the photos and videos just stunning. They so beautiful. The colors are consistent. All the zoom ranges produce very clear details, no distortion. I haven't found any bad photo on this phone, even from the tiny 8 megapixel ultra wide sensor. So it's clearly like 4:1. So unless you're a proper hardcore gamer or a passionate gamer, this phone will serve you very well. I've got no complaints about it overall, apart from like proper gaming. So my mark for this phone is at least 4 out of 5. Was nice seeing you all. Cheers.